try to do this thought exercise when we're talking about basketball. Don't think of your 5 or 6 returning lettermen when we're having basketball conversations. Don't think of like the constraints on your program, or we don't really have tall guys in my school district, or we don't really have. Think about what kind of team do you like to watch on television? What if you could coach any way, any style, any way that you want, what would that look like? Write that down to me. Create a game model based on that. And now let's craft a plan to get you that.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we are joined by the owner and founder of Radius Athletics, Randy Sherman. Drawing from his 11 years of coaching experience, where his teams enjoy multiple 20-plus and 30-plus win seasons, along with valuable insights he's gained throughout studying the game and conversing with coaches, Coach Sherman has created an immersive and network growth experience for basketball coaches. Radius Athletics, a basketball coaching consulting firm, was founded in the summer of 2015 by Coach Sherman. He has since counseled and mentored hundreds of coaches, spending thousands of hours helping them with X's and O's, practice planning, developing their coaching philosophy, career guidance, and so much more. To learn more, check out radiusathletics.com. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
Hey.
What's up, Coach?
How are you, sir?
Oh, man, I can't complain. How about you?
Same. Good. Doing good.
Living the dream?
Trying to.
Well, man, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on here, talking some hoops with me. I mean, I feel like I followed you and Radius Athletics for years now. And so also thank you so much for what you do for coaches and sharing the game. This is an honor for me, man.
Well, I'm happy to help, man. I've listened to several of your podcasts when you have guests that pique my interest. So I've the same goes to you. Thanks for all the work you're doing to help coaches. I appreciate it.
I got to ask, what was kind of your motivation for, I mean, you were a high school coach for years, and then 8 years ago started Radius Athletics. So what were some of the motivations there?
I would say just wanted to get back into basketball in a creative way. That I thought sort of, I don't know, the internet and all of that, the sharing space and in all domains is just a ever changing and fast moving space. So I sort of started seeing some of the things some people in other, fitness or, self-help or all this we're doing. And I thought, well, maybe there's some ideas that could apply to basketball. And I honestly had the encouragement of a couple guys that I coached against and with who said, man, you would kill it on Twitter. I didn't even have a Twitter account. I didn't even, they were like, you should start a blog. You should start writing about some of the things you did when you were a coach and sort of your perspective. I didn't think it was unique, but they thought it was. And they were like, I think it would attract an audience. And I just had to kind of teach myself how to do that. But the motivation, to answer your question, was strictly, I wanted to get back into basketball in a way that sort of like suited the lifestyle I wanted, that I don't know, scratched a creative itch that didn't look like, coaching or something, in the traditional sense. And I really love coaches. And I mean, it's not to say I didn't love players, kids and students when I coached, but I really like coaches, and that's the audience I wanted to more tap into.
I completely get that. Was able to direct for PGC for 5 summers, and loved the transformation that I saw in the athletes. Love what I get to do still working with players like that. That hasn't changed. But man, at the end of every day at PGC, we would get to have a coaches round table from after the day. And I just remember sometimes watching the clock, like how much longer until I get to do that. Yeah. The idea of sitting with coaches, just talking about the game and how to better our craft, like it was so enjoyable. So to me, that was a huge motivation for doing this. But what's really impressive with you and guys like you is, like you said, the creativity side. I don't create anything. I can get on here and listen to you and how creative you are, but it's just not me. So where do all of your ideas come from? Where are not just past experiences, but to me, the courage that it takes to do what you're doing is inspiring.
Well, I think if you look at any creative type, whether that be a painter, a musician, an artist, no one's inventing anything.
Sure.
Ray Charles didn't invent gospel music and he didn't invent soul music, but what he did was invent sort of the fusion of the two. He was the first to sort of like sing about love and romance and women but the music itself had a gospel sound to it. And so that connection hadn't been made before. And I would challenge anyone who says I'm not creative or I'm not to like, nor am I, if I have any talent whatsoever. It's like maybe just seeing, well, this team ran this action and this team ran this action. And if these two shapes that I saw, one in Europe, one in, the Colonial Athletic Conference or something, like could meet, and then now you've got something new and different. And that's all. It's just sort of maybe seeing connections that others don't first. and then I would say that only comes from immersion into the sport and watching a lot of it. And just like someone made that a musical connection, that comes from listening to a lot of music, playing and experimenting with a lot of music and just being around it. So I would say that if it's anything, it's just the ability to see connections and then make them packageable and digestible to an audience.
And you're right on the money. That makes sense, because you're right. Everybody has a little bit of creativity to them.
Sure.
But then where you've done, not just, you've been able to put it in such a effective way together for coaches. But I think there's a part of you're putting yourself out there. And that takes, again, that's the courage piece. Like, I don't mind retweeting or sharing something somebody else has said. But the moment that it's mine, or I took a few things and I've created something new, that's that kind of next level, where I would say there's probably a lot of guys like me that struggle maybe to put their ideas and things out there. But just hats off to you, man, for having, like I said earlier, like that courage to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that took some getting used to, because we sometimes tie our identity to the perception and the feedback of others, and that's what makes that hard. And I think that's just something that as I flex those muscles and have trained those muscles, I'm more comfortable with now. And I always tell coaches, like, hey, shoot holes in this. Like the coaches I work with in the mentoring program I run, like, here's something I'm about to put out. I'm gonna let you guys see it first. What do you think? What do you think could be critiqued about it, or what's not doable, what's not actionable? So I think it takes courage, though. I mean, there's times that I'm shy or reticent about putting an idea out there, and I don't do it, and that's okay. And then there's ideas I've put out. Not every Justin Timberlake song goes to #1, right? Like there's some that
he actually has some flops.
Some are better than others, right?
Yeah,
so that's okay too. Like and then what I've done, having done this now, is sort of paid attention to what does make it to #1, to continue that analogy, right? And like, okay, more of that, like more of that, and more inspiration drawn from that to sort of keep going with what works and what doesn't. But also too, I would say there are a lot of things, and you think of an innovator in the basketball space, there are a lot of things that when they first came out were not well received by the coaching community, or were kind of considered sacrilegious, or that's not how you play the game, or that's no one can win that way. But 10 years later, 5 years later, wait a second, that was very influential. And now what seems like an outlandish idea at one point, now is sort of commonplace. I think is someone like Mike D'Antoni, like, you know, he was considered, you know, ruining the game or whatever, but now that's pretty much how everyone plays, and even more extreme than he was now. So
yeah, no, that's a good point. And that growth mindset, I mean, the challenge for all of us coaches is to keep experimenting, and not to the detriment of your team, but obviously with the hope that it's going to further your players' development, lead them in a more efficient way to winning. But how often do we get stuck in the patterns or the philosophies, and then we need guys like you to come along and to challenge us a little bit and to make us think outside the box. So great point there, man.
Yeah. I think that as coaches, sort of we lean on what we know and we get comfortable with, and that works for a lot of people, like to really be a master of something, and so I don't fault that either. You know, but I just don't want to see people being left behind or at a competitive disadvantage because they won't kind of like evolve or take a step.
So unique with you is the fact that you have a coaching background, but now that, like you said before, you coach coaches and you're constantly out there watching and listening and taking notes. And so this may be hard to answer, but what's one of the best things you've borrowed lately?
One of the best things I've borrowed lately, something I read in a blog post recently, where it was the blog post was someone who's like a business coach. So I've started reading things for people who are doing coaching of other leaders, and to sort of like, you know, borrow ideas from, and they were talking to a CEO, and the CEO said, you know, like, this division of our company is on life support. Like, meaning it's just sort of like they're existing. It's not losing money, it's not gaining, it's not profitable, but it's also, it's just sort of like, you know, those employees, the leaders, is sort of like they just show up and do their job, you know, sort of like just coasting along. And her advice was, in the best companies, nothing is on life support. And I've adopted that phrase of like nothing on life support. And I've started like talking to the coaches about, how's your strength and conditioning program? Are we getting, you know, we go to the weight room, I can't tell that my guys are jumping any higher, running any faster, any quicker. Like, that might be on life support. How's your rebounding? How's your practice planning? If you've got any part of your coaching that you would describe as it's kind of on life support.
Yeah.
Let's tackle that. And I borrowed that from that blog post I read. Dr. Julia Garner. So Garner is a great follow if anyone is interested in who I'm referring to. And then I examine myself, coach, is like, what part of my mentoring of coaches is like kind of been on life support, or, you know, what, you know, I'm just rocking along. I'm making some money now doing this. And, you know, I've kind of got the same coaches. Why haven't I added new, you know, the recruitment part of getting new coaches into the program? And I've been on life support, you know, like it made me examine myself reading that. How's my home life? How's my fitness? How's my, sleep, the balance I have in, you know, what part of my own life is on life support, if you will. So that's the best thing I borrowed lately.
Coach, that's really good. And there's a few things I think we can unpack with that. The first one is just I appreciate the fact that you're finding things outside of basketball. I've had a lot of coaches make the comment of don't just stay within your sport or your activity, and learn from other sports, from football coaches, from rugby coaches, soccer, and then in your case, from business people. So I think that's a great challenge. I struggle with that. I kind of stay in my lane, but golly, there's so much crossover there, right?
Yeah, I mean, leadership is leadership, and what we all want to develop those skills that translate to leading people, which is what coaches do. And those skills are being applied in places other than sports, and I do think you often see people that have an athletic background who develop their leadership chops through the sports world do well in the business world when they leave sports. And I can speak for my wife's company. The CEO of her company played football at Florida State. One of her coworkers was a PGA Tour golf professional. Like, so that mental toughness, the leadership and the lessons, those are universal principles, and I try to tap into those.
Man, great point there of why sports are so important. Like with our players, it can't just be about winning, because at the end of the day, these lessons that they're learning, to your point, I mean, they're going to follow them for the rest of their lives and greatly impact them and make them valuable for their jobs. Because the majority of the players I coach, basketball is done after these 3 or 4 years. So I don't want them to look back and think, yeah, what did Coach Saban really care about? Man, it was just winning. Anything winning, it wasn't anything else.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're not moving your program towards winning and excellence, then maybe you're on life support, right?
Yeah.
But there has to be this. It's kind of like what Phil Jackson said. There's more to life than basketball, but there's more to basketball than basketball, and we got to tap into that, right?
I agree, and you know, what is team building? What is leading? If it's nothing but a group of people bringing their talents together for a purpose, and that happens outside of sports. So
I like that you talked about that life support thing. Is, man, that's an awesome way to look at, like you said, your program yourself. Like, I was thinking about my workouts and my nutrition.
Yeah.
And how often those are definitely on life support. And you know, but like, you got to think of what's after life support.
Yeah.
Like, what's the next step?
Either we you know, we either get off of it or in a bad way or a good way, right?
So you got to recognize it, but then there has to be an action step. Because if recognition and then just, that's okay, it just is what it is, then you're going down that negative direction of what's after life support, or you can rebound from it. And I was thinking about not just looking at ourselves and our program in that, but individually looking at your players. Like, which of your players are on life support within your program? Meaning they're just floating along, just existing, not growing, not grasping onto a higher purpose within it. So maybe there's something even at that level that we can use 100%. That term for.
Yeah, I think so too. Just like, you've got players who are complying, they make their way through the drills, they don't kill the drill, they make their way through practice. They don't get praised nor chastised. They just sort of like get it over with. What I would say is, you know, let's make sure that nobody is just coasting.
Yep. Let's say you recognize, now that we kind of have this self-awareness and you're standing in the gym. I even think, like, in an open gym environment, you can figure out those guys pretty quick. And you see one, what's that conversation with them like? Because obviously you don't want to say, hey, I feel like you're on life support, you're just barely floating. You know, the next step for you is like, what's that conversation like for you?
It's a great question. I would say, I think as coaches, if we analyzed our habits, like if we filmed ourselves, our best players get the most coaching. Like the interactions, we're talking to our starters, you know, we got to set this screen better or whatever, like that. Most of those coaching interjections are to the starters. And I would challenge coaches to go further and give that same energy to every player, even if it means you're now giving less energy and direction to your better players. Like try to disperse that further. And the conversation would sound something like, hey, you're important to this program also. And I know you may not feel like you're the leader on the court of this team, but you're important to this program also. So get back on defense. So set a screen. So whatever that you know, correction you're wanting to make. But like letting every player know you're important to this program too.
That's a good nugget, because you're right. I mean, I asked Coach Thomas. Tommy Thomas was my high school coach and at the Colony, Texas, and when I first got started in this, I asked him, what's one thing? This is back in like 2006. I was at Naaman Forest for Jeff Clarkson, and just said, what's one thing you do differently, coach, if you could start over? And he said, I would spend more time and pay more attention to guys 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, however many on the bench. He's like, I got to know the starters and that kind of rotation way better and at a deeper level than I did the others. And he said that was a big regret of his. So, but how quickly and how easily, without even realizing it, this last season's done. I look back. Mm-hmm. Did I give them all the same and my best stuff?
Yeah. I've read something before that says your second string is more important than your first, and I would say the genesis of that quote would be, those guys are fine. They can play. They're okay. They're fine. I always say the true health of your program, show me your 10th player. Show me your 10th player versus the program down the road's 10th player versus the, state champion 10th player or something like that. That to me, like, your good players sort of like have genetic predisposition. They maybe have, whatever that's leading it, but like that is your work personified.
Yeah.
What's your program's skill development look like? Can your 10th player dribble, pass, and shoot? That's actually your report card. These guys have genetic dispositions. They have, maybe a parent at home who's been steering them towards basketball since 3rd grade. But like, this 10th player, could they go in a game and like, you don't hide your eyes and like, don't pass it to this guy, or like, we got to hide this player, put them in the corner, and don't, could your 10th player play at another school down the road or something like that? Like, to me, that's the true report card of a program, your floor versus your ceiling.
That's big time, because you're right on the money. When Tyler Lumblade was here, he's a walk-on at TCU right now. Mm-hmm. He came as a freshman. He was already 6'4" and very skilled. And as he did progress and did get better, I got to be careful hanging my hat on, well, yeah, I helped produce Tyler Lumblade.
Yeah.
Did I? Did I really? Yeah. Or was he darn good? His dad played in college. He had already done the work and the reps even before getting here. But yeah, you're right on the money. Those guys that 8, 9, 10, how are they progressing? And I feel like training them in a similar way. I don't know, how often do we change our training for almost give them like 2 paths? Here's the path of our better players. Here are the things you guys do. Here's the path of everybody else. But why not train them almost all as if they're your best players, and really not diminish the reps and skills of your starters or your rotation, but hold those other guys to that standard. And maybe, golly, coach, maybe they'll just surprise us a little bit.
Yeah, and here's what often happens is the season or seasons go on. A guy moves, a guy quits, a guy decides he's going to play baseball only. A guy decides he's going to play football only. Someone tears an ACL or something. And now I'm left to depend upon a player who I've neglected for minutes. And I'm going to yell and scream at them for not being adequate because we've developed a practice culture that's not, your second string's more important than your first. Some of those things can come back and haunt us.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. This next question, I'd like for you to take it two directions. One is, since you were a high school coach, you have that experience of what made your program different, but then also with Radius Athletics and how you work with coaches in your mentor program. So if you will, just kind of take it both directions there.
So when I coached, I would say this is what some other coaches have. I coached on the girls' side, and I would say 2 things that made our program sort of different was, one, I would say the tempo in which we played was a little uncommon for the girls' side, with the emphasis on transition offense and sort of playing a 94-foot game whereupon we secure the ball back, whether that be we got scored on or gained a defensive rebound. The girls' game sort of tends to be a little more, there's some exceptions, a little more plugged into the coach, meaning team gets a rebound, she chins the ball, outlets to their point guard, the smoke clears, defense gets back, they walk up the floor and look at their coach, and he holds up a number or letter, calls out a state or something like that. And whereas we were a little different than that, in that we taught sort of like flow and go and things like that. Now, we weren't the only team doing that, but that's definitely a little bit more of an outlier. I'd say the second thing would be, I have a strength and conditioning kinesiology type background, and the amount of time we spent in the weight room and doing physical preparation versus our opponents might have been a little bit different, a bit of an outlier. To get to the second part of your question about the Radius Athletics sort of business model, I'd say kind of what makes it different than sort of some other things you see out there is the personal interaction. I try to, it's more than just a paid blog that you join and get to read free articles and playbooks. I meet with coaches, I meet with coaching staffs, I interact with them in all day long in a group chat format. Zooms like you and I are on right now with coaches, where we can watch film of their team. That sort of like sets the ceiling of how many members I can acquire, because I can't be doing that all day, every day. So I can't get millions, but I can get deeper connections with the coaches that do work, I do work alongside. So I would say that sort of like personal interaction and access. And I would say the second thing that would make it different is a lot of my competitors in the basketball space like have a particular sort of offense and or defense that they're marketing to, and it's like, join this program to learn this particular offense or defense. And I don't have that. I work with coaches that run Princeton, that run motion, that run 5-out, 4-out, coaches that play man-to-man, coaches that play zone, coaches that, so it's not necessarily centered around a particular, like a Rick Torbert or something, like read and react. That's what you're joining to learn that particular. It's more about sort of like helping coaches find their thing, whatever that may be.
Yeah, it's not just what they do, but how they do what they do, that I would imagine you really come alongside and help them with.
Yeah, and I think about so many people, like if you were to drive down the Dallas North Tollway or Highway 75 or somewhere, you see people commuting to work, probably 9 out of 10 people of those cars has someone driving it who's going to a job that they really don't love, right? Like they're doing it out of obligation to their family. They need income, they need benefits. But like 1 out of every 10 of those persons is like, oh man, it's Monday. Yes, I'm going to work. I love my job. But like,
that's
go. Not normal. Like
weekend's done, thankfully.
Sadly, that's not normal. Most of people are working in a fashion they have to instead of they want to.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of coaches who are listening to this, who I've spoken with, who go coach a way that they feel like they have to instead of how they want to. And what I try to do is say, what do you want to do? Try to do this thought exercise when we're talking about basketball. Don't think of your 5 or 6 returning lettermen when we're having basketball conversations. Don't think of like the constraints on your program, or we don't really have tall guys in my school district, or we don't really have. Think about, what kind of team do you like to watch on television? What if you could coach any way, any style, any way that you want, what would that look like? Write that down to me. Create a game model based on that. And now let's craft a plan to get you that.
That's unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I got locked in. Love listening to you talk about it, and I could definitely see, as a coach that I've always loved running and gunning, but really knowing early on like how to execute it, how to sidestep some of the, because most high schools, and even though we're a private school, we don't recruit, and so most high schools can't do that or don't, and so who shows up in the fall, that's who we go with. But so you kind of help with that style. Is it style based or player based? I think you can help kind of bring those two together, because so often coaches are, I found, are on either side of that. This is what we run, no matter who we have or what obstacles, and golly, it's just we're going to do it. Or we have no identity, we're going to change it up every single year based on. I think there is a way to bring those together, and you probably help with that a ton.
Yeah, and it's a spectrum. It's not either or. So we don't have to be system coach or, fit our personnel coach. There's a spectrum there. It's not an either or. But I would say that, like, it's all was based on my observations as a coach and as a sports fan. And like, there's some of the best teams, programs at all levels, high school all the way up, sort of not only do the same teams win every year, right? Like, we can kind of predict who's going to be your state champion or the conference you're in. Like, you give me 5 tries, I'll probably get who it's going to be, right?
Right.
But like, what I observed coaching, high school girls basketball is like in 2A, 3A, 4A, I'm, kind of going to be one of these 5 teams almost every year. That's one thing I observed. But the second thing I observed is, not only is it going to be one of these 5 teams, is I could like leave the state for 10 years, come back, it would still be them. And not only that, I'm seeing they kind of play the same way. Instead of this girl's, it was her big sister in this corner playing guard. Now it's her little sister or her, so there's sort of like this uniformity to that. Someone has learned to systemize success. And there's a great front end cost to that. That's the part that keeps coaches more in that, we fit everything to do our personnel. They don't want to coach the way they want to coach because the front end cost of like moving to that just feels too steep.
That's a good point. Going back to the second thing you said about what made your high school program different was the amount of time that you spent like in the weight room. And I would imagine with injury prevention and things like that. So sometimes, you and I as coaches, we get the same amount of time with our players. And so we have to choose what we do with that time. And I would imagine there's a lot of coaches out there, like, obviously they believe in the weight room, but how much it shows by how much time and how often they're really in there. What do you think is what was the benefit for you spending a little bit more time in there, as opposed to doing shell for another 30 minutes a day?
Yeah, or more drills or whatever. Yeah. So that's a great question. It's not something that I didn't wrestle with as a coach. I understand that by leaving the court and going to the weight room, we're sort of making a voluntary choice with our time that, you can make an argument that could backfire. But I felt like the benefits were, one, I felt like because of the way we played, with playing aggressive man-to-man defense and a full court offense, we needed to transform physically to be able to do that. So like, I can't take my Toyota Camry that I bought and put it on a NASCAR track without wheels shooting off and brakes burning. Those cars are specially equipped to handle that. So I've got to do that to my players. I can't just take you off the lot and put you into the race the way you are. Not this style of play.
Yeah.
So that was one justification for it. Is like, we have to change physically. And in order for it to get its full, optimal, maximal potential, we've got to be terrific athletes. And that means changing our way our bodies look, and adding strength, and adding power and speed and all of that. Getting, again, nothing on life support. So if you're an athlete level 6, I'm trying to get you to level 7. If you're an athlete who's a level 9, I'm trying to get you to level 10. Like, nothing. We're not accepting your current abilities as your permanent abilities. So that's one reason. The second reason would be the injury prevention piece you mentioned. Um, uh, Sort of like, you know, if I'm well equipped for the rigors of the sport, I'm less likely to get injured. And I just didn't want to lose players to injury as frequently as my opponents did. I coached girls basketball and would often see opponents with 2 or 3 knee braces out there, the big ones.
Mm.
And just felt like that gave us an advantage to be fit, strong, fast, and healthy.
I think how we communicate the weight room to our players is really important, like the why behind we're in there. And I love the connection you made to them with, why do we need to be in here? It's because we need our bodies to look and play a certain way for the style of play that you guys like. You connected the two, because I think sometimes we why are we lifting today? Well, because it's good for you. Oh, all right. Like, that's just not good. It's not going to work against most, like, especially I do. One thing I do appreciate about today's players is they want to know why. They want to know why we're doing things. And I think the reason is the phone. Like, anytime they need to know why, they can just, in 10 seconds, they can get the answer. So as coaches, just to do as I say, I don't know.
Now you're not the information gatekeeper anymore as the expert. Information is readily available. So players, parents, all the above can they have access to information. So that you can't just be the autocrat, right?
Yep. That's a good point. And I think a challenge for me going forward is we may be blessed with just players that are naturally yes or no, sir, I'll do whatever you tell me to. Like, maybe that's the culture that is in your city, is in your school, the parents, that whatever. But I think I can help them even have more buy-in in that, because I know how important it is and how it can transform your game, and the confidence, the better defender, the more everything on the floor that it can become by buying into that from my own playing experience, but articulating that and actually getting that point across. Like, I think sometimes I might be a little sloppy with that delivery.
Mm-hmm. I also believe, Coach, in sort of the power of marginal gains, meaning like just being like 1% better, and how in the macro from 10,000 feet that adds up. So like, we're stronger now, and we get a rebound that the other teams, we get a defensive rebound, the other team's trying to scrape it away, that moment where possession is sort of in peril. It could go this way, it could go, and that used to be a tie ball because we weren't strong enough to kind of rip it and pull it, and like, you reach in here and I'm going to win, and like, it used to be a tie ball, and maybe some of those we didn't have the possession arrows, so that didn't. Now so all those little micro, like 1% better, like we can now jump this much higher and get 2 more rebounds a month or something. Like, the power of marginal gains and how they add up. And we get beat off the dribble because our strength in our lower body allows our lateral pushes and movement to be that much more. So we get beat off the dribble like 1 time less per game, then that adds up. So the marginal gains to me were worth it. And it became a confidence thing too, Coach. Is like, you would see a girl, power dribble, boom, put her shoulder in someone, go up through contact, jump off 2 feet, actually leave the ground, which, like, leap off the ground and like foul and one, and just like flex and like weight room, Coach. And like, like that's invaluable. Like, you can't put a price tag on that, like the belief going into the game, whether it's true or not, that we work harder than they do. They don't feel the pain we feel. They don't work hard as we do. That's an advantage before tip off, whether it's true or not, if it's believed.
I take that with shooting too.
Yeah, sure.
Like confidence overall. A lot of times confidence is tied to shooting. But I take it the same way. Like, guys, why are we going to go off today? Why is today going to be a record-breaking day? Because of all the training we do, the way that we think, the way that we show up every day. And I love that idea of those one percenters. It's the idea that you're going to go into one workout and be transformed. Man, you're gonna feel let down at the end of that. But it's the brick by brick mentality, compound effect that gets you there.
Mm-hmm. And to your credit as a coach, the freedom, sort of like the opponent knowing that you're willing to shoot, gives you benefits that you don't even have to shoot well in a given night,
right.
But you're still reaping those benefits because this team will do it. This team will do it.
Yeah.
So like you may go, 4 of 19 that night, but you got drive to the basket, or you were able to feed cutters or hit your post man because they're willing to do it and has shown us in the past that they can make these shots at a passable rate. Then now that those benefits are tertiary and secondary to the primary benefit of making the shot.
So true. I would tell our guys it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors. I think a lot of people would say that we are known for shooting threes. I've even had parents ask me, why do we only shoot threes? And as soon as they say that, it lets me know a little bit of who I'm dealing with and the level of basketball IQ that they have. And I think it's important. Like, it's not their fault. It's just good to know, because how deeply do I try to explain, or where can they actually get? I kind of have an idea of that, but you're right on the why can we attack the paint better than we say anybody else, but better because of our willingness to pull. The fact that all 5 of you're not going to shoot the same amount, you're not going to have the same amount of makes, but the fact that they know that all of you will do it. And if they do the research enough, they're going to see each of you at least one time make a shot in a game. And they're going to mark it down as, he'll pull it. And I've seen him make one. That creates the space and the fear, the closeouts that we can create advantages with. I love that you said that, because it's something we talk about, but I don't know if a lot of people get that the ability to pull and the willingness to do it is as much of a strategy as just making shots.
The stumbling block for a lot of the coaches, again, is the front end costs of okay, we want to move to that, but I would love to coach that way. I would love to play that way. But right now, today, we don't have 5 shooters. Well, I doubt when you walked into your school X amount of years ago, it wasn't like some magical place where there were just guys who could shoot.
It wasn't Pleasantville, right? Coach. It wasn't Pleasantville.
So, exactly. But the difference is you did it anyway.
Yeah.
You started.
Yeah.
You started. You paid the front end costs, and now you got what you want.
Yeah, the shooting culture. Yeah, it is. To me, it's special. It's fun, but it does take time, and you can't be resulting. Like it can't be just about made shots or shooting percentage.
Yeah,
we played Will Dorado this year, and we were 6 for 44 from 3. And I mean, anybody, I would imagine a lot of people watching would go, "Why are they still shooting threes?" Like they get. Because the quality of looks, what our offense was producing, we're a transition offense like you love, and our offense was producing what we would call 7s, wide open jump shots within our range. And because it's a 7, we don't think about what has happened in the past. In fact, what has happened in the past, good or bad, negative, means we're probably going to make this one even more. Or if we've made a couple, man, maybe we're hot now, we're going to keep pulling it. But man, when we're getting those great looks, there's a freedom in it, Coach, of just being able to look at your players and say, "Hey, listen, I love what you're doing. Keep pulling. What's going to happen in the next one?" And it's not blind optimism. It's all based on our training. it's guys I could bring them in and say, I know we've missed the last 10, but I've watched you train thousands of shots. And I know if you keep believing and keep pulling and just don't even think, feet down, leather touches fingertips, you know it's a 7, let it go. I know. And then after the game, 6 for 44, man, like even though that looks bad, if a team watched that film, they would still guard us the same way. Because listen, if they're willing to shoot that many, that means that they've made them before, or their coach is an insane idiot. And but possibly, I don't know.
Well, I've worked, again, like I said before, I've helped coaches who do all sorts of offensive tactics. So, but I have spoken with coaches who have the same mindset you just expressed, and sort of like in talks, one-on-one talks with one another, sort of like their internal struggles are the scrutiny it opens them up to, and they're really bothered by that. Like, I want to do this, I believe it, I can read numbers, I know I'm not.
It makes sense, yeah.
But it does avail you to scrutiny, and that's sometimes coaches want to avoid that. They would rather sort of like stay conventional and safe, and then sort of like expose themselves to that sort of scrutiny, and that's a barrier. And the fact that you just don't care is an advantage for you because it's keeping others from doing it.
I think it's just one of those, when you see the magic in it, like it shows itself at times. The time, like, I don't like the term live and die by the 3. If that's the case, then we live way more than we die. Like, it's not like we're out here dying every day. But it comes back to, I mean, maybe there's a combination of being at the right place, being with an administration that has your back and understands that, like, when my AD walks in the gym and 1 through 35, all players are working on threes. You know, they're shooting, they're training, they're having fun, music's blaring, we're charting, we're all seeing improvement. They're allowed to do it in games. When they see that, then it validates the why behind it. But no doubt there has to be a little bit of, okay, if you really believe in it, then stick to your guns. But I don't think it's a deal where, and maybe you, like, I've gone to the Grinnell route a little bit. Yeah, I did that in my early years here. That might be a level of, it's too much for people to wrap their head around. And I think there is a part where, for me, I want to have a style that is fast and I love it, but it is understandable. They don't have to like it and agree with it, but they understand. I don't know. I rambled there, Coach. Sorry.
No, that's fine. No, I think you mentioned that your AD, your athletic director, and I would say what I would want for, if I were an AD, and I spent some time in that role as a coach, I would be just as happy being San Diego State's AD as I would be, I don't know, who's someone who plays kind of Arkansas, fast and free type. Because what we have is a program on our campus that has an identifiable characteristic. They have an identity. The expectations are clear. Players entering the program know exactly what they need to be able to do to get playing time. Whether I was Tony Bennett at Virginia's AD or someone who played, I don't care. What I don't want is a floundering, we're just trying stuff program. I will have your back while you're trying to build that. And what we want to end up with is, hey, if you come to San Diego State, you're playing defense, man. Like, you're going to guard like that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about what's going to get you on and off the court. So that identity can exist around a lot of things.
Yeah.
And what I see when I see the bell curve of teams with terrible ones and great ones is the big average pile in the middle that just don't. I'm watching you, and I'm like, you know what? What are y'all like? What are y'all like? What are you? What I want out of that pile somehow, and that can come in a lot of different ways.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
You mentioned a little bit about your favorite style to teach, and it sounds similar to the way I love it. So I can't wait to hear more when you were coaching. And I guess too, like if a coach was to come to you and say, "Hey, I'm a clean blank, I'm a blank slate.
Yeah.
How should I build it? You know, what style of play?"
Yeah.
What do you say?
I would say, that what I try to do when I advise coaches is, one, I avoid the word should, like you should do this. I think that sounds sort of preachy and comes from a place of like, I'm smarter than you or know more than you, which I don't like. I'm not comfortable with that. So what this is another little nugget that I stole. You asked, that was your terrific first question, is anytime you want to say you should, turn it into a prediction. Turn that into prediction. So instead of saying you guys should shoot more threes, say, I predict your offensive efficiency would increase if you shot more threes. So now we can test that, right? Instead of it coming across as like, I know you don't.
I like that, even talking to players.
Yes.
I mean, I think I say
a great coaching point.
I think I say should. Like you should really do that. Yeah.
Now change it to a prediction. Say, you should, whatever, go to your left hand more or whatever, like whatever the case.
I predict if you load up when you come off the ball screen, you'll have more time to make a read, to see space. That's good.
Or I predict if you load up before coming off the screen, your shooting percentage will go up. Now we can test that, right?
Yeah.
True or not?
Yeah.
So now the player has incentive to see if you're right.
Yeah. Sorry, go back to when I cut you off.
So what I would say is, I don't really come to a coach and say you should play this way. I tell them how I did and why. But like I said before, I've helped coaches who do a lot of different stuff. So some that play slow, some that play fast, some that play in between, and that's fine. But if they ask me what I have the most knowledge and experience with, that's where I'm more comfortable speaking. And I think it's been because of that, it's where I can sound the most informed. And, so that the style of play for me was aggressive man-to-man defense and transition offense. And sort of this idea that I think, I won't say I pioneered it, but I definitely talk about it. And now I see it talked about in other places. Whether I have any role in that or not, I don't know nor care. But this idea of sort of seamlessness, where when we transition, sort of the end of that transition looks like our half-court offense. So we don't have this moment of rearrangement. We don't have this moment of setting it up. We sort of transition with some constraints where we arrive in the half court that if we don't have a fast break opportunity, if we don't beat them down the floor, we can connect with our offensive shape without, we just look up and, okay, this is our offense, and we don't stop and we don't have to reorganize. So it's that seamless quality that I feel over the years that I've helped coaches either copy or create or that I think would be my preferred style of coaching. And I tried to take it, turn that dial to 11, and like even our baseline and sideline out of bounds sort of connected to our offense. Transition connected to our offense. The way we lined up in a defensive free throw. So even like when the other team's shooting, the where I put our players in that moment spoke to how we're going to inbound the ball and who's going to do it, who's going to receive the outlet, who's going to fly right, who's going to fly left. Like we did all that thinking because we want no stoppage and seamless connections between phases.
I wonder how often coaches, because I'm guilty of it, don't pay attention to those transition points, those moments that where we can steal a few seconds back, for we can be a little bit more organized, where in moments where like transition defense is typically disorganized, but we need to be organized quickly in it. Kind of that opposite effect there. I think that's a great point especially those out of bounds, is taking time.
Yeah. Because what I didn't want is, okay, here's our inbounds play, baseline out of bounds, and here's option 1. We don't get it. Okay, option 2, we get the ball inbounded to that player, but it doesn't work like YouTube quality, meaning boom, boom, we score off the inbounds play. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We got it in, but
you're in bad spots. You're in bad spots.
And then now we've got to reorg. Exactly. Now we've got to set it up.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like reverse engineering. Like I wanted that moment to where if we got it in but didn't get a shot, the player looks and like, oh, we're 4 out, boom, or oh, we look like low post set or something like that. So it's like taking the design constraint of a shape and working backwards.
Yeah.
And that, because the best teams that I played personally, when you're trying to get organized and like you're trying to plug into your coach and see what they want, but the ball's in play, that's a very vulnerable time. And they sense that, and it's like blood in the water. And as a person who taught a pressure style defense, I'm not letting you do that. Like, that's not happening. You had better thought about your design beforehand, because that's not happening.
To me, there's a big shift though too. In order to play the way that you're talking about, you have to value the continuity that you have almost more than the sets that you have. Because if you can't or score routinely from that, whatever you're going to flow into out of your out of bounds, like you inbound, you're in the correct spots for your 4 out 1 in. Like if you're not getting a lot of buckets from that, the tendency is to back out, run the set that we know we'll get a certain shot from. So I think right there, you almost like you're deciding a little bit of joysticking and running a lot of plays versus setting up concepts that allow them to make plays, but you have to see it work in order for it to validate why you should continue to do it.
And also too, I always question players who, when we were trying to make this transformation and it was a little growing pains, would be like, look, when we're trying to organize, let's say we successfully do that, like we backed it out and we're able to like get it. What did the defense also get to do? Oh, they were guarding her. Now I can get back to who I'm supposed to. And like, they got to organize. So what the motive, the overarching why as to do it was to keep the pressure on the defense, to they don't get a moment to set themselves up and get their, they're having to keep defending rather than getting to organize themselves. It's like, I call it friendly offense. Like I see a lot of coaches who like, you guys are awfully friendly to the defense because you got dudes who could run 4 240s, and you're just like letting the defense like just kind of like, okay, like that is awful nice of you. Like,
I love that
defensive rebound, the outlet, and like you, coach, you say, whoa, run. You just help the defense.
Stop being so friendly on offense. I think that's great.
That's really nice of you to, and I say that could apply to other things. You're awful nice of you to turn down a wide open 3. We didn't X out. We didn't close you out. We didn't get the second or third closeout, and your guy just dribbled it or put it over his head. Like, thanks. Because now we can get back and get organized and get to neutral with you. Like, don't be so friendly.
We talked about this a little bit, but so with that style of play or any style that a coach chooses, how do they take players that they have and maybe, all right, if you have some great athletes, they're long, they can run, like it makes sense to play fast and up tempo. But what if there is maybe it doesn't appear that it would fit. How do you kind of take the style that you love and are comfortable with or confident in, and the players, how do you bring them together?
Well, you ask a great question that I've been asked dozens of times. And this is just my own personal belief, but I believe that you don't have to be fast to play fast. Foot speed is not necessarily the sort of like secret ingredient of playing fast. To me, it's skill. Can we pass and catch, like make long passes accurately? Can we handle the ball? And like, if we want to attack, we're in transition and they're taking away our pitch aheads by sort of like getting defensive width and can I handle the ball, crossover and penetrate and crack the shell with my ball handler? Like, so it's really skill that's the main driver for playing fast. So while outside your circle and control might be things like speed, height, athleticism as a coach, inside your circle of control is the skill level of your players to a certain degree, assuming you have time,
sure,
and help and all of the things you need to do to sort of develop skill inside your program. So I would challenge. So my follow-up question to the coach is like, okay, I understand that you don't have track stars. I get that. But can your guys play? Can they, guys, would you say your guys can dribble, pass, and shoot kind of okay? Like they're fundamentally sound. And if the answer to that is yes, you too can play fast. Because that's actually the real quality. Like
I don't think I've ever
BYU
heard it said
plays
like
fast.
that.
Like BYU plays fast. Like,
yeah,
like that's the actual component.
You're right.
So if
it's
what
not
you're telling
track.
me,
Yeah, it's
what
not
you're
track.
telling me is we lack athleticism and skill, I would say
good luck.
yeah, like what do you want me to
what
tell
style?
you?
Like all
what
right,
do you
so
want me to tell you? Yeah.
You're going to try to play in the 20s then.
You're not ready to win yet. It's an uncomfortable truth,
Well,
but you're not ready to win yet, and that's okay. Now let's develop a plan that maybe is a multi-year plan.
That's it. And that's where those early on years of maybe you get your teeth kicked in, you get your butt kicked, but you're continuing to build the vision, train them for maybe future success. Because sometimes, I mean, players don't know where they're going to be in the year. And even though we don't know for sure, doing it for a little while and believing in our system, I think we can start, like you said, we can start to predict if we continue to make the steps and strides and get 1% better, guys, this is where we will be. I think early on, you are talking a little bit of it's that vision and a little bit of this is what the future will look like. And then training so that you can't skip steps, training so that one day those click moments happen.
Yeah. And it's sort of like this sort of tug of war that coaches feel they can sort of, maybe if they do have an inferior team, can sort of like X and O their way to great heights. And if they just keep asking another guy, if they just watch one more YouTube video, if they just buy another new playbook, there's something out there that will help me X and O my bad team to good. Mm-hmm. And I just don't believe that to be true. So what I would say would be, if you're, let's just go about the business of building an identity and try to divorce ourselves from the results this year. Hard to do.
Yeah, I was at TAB. Yeah, I was at the UIL state tournament years ago, hanging out with Tom Inman, and I asked us because he had recently they won a state championship at Plano Senior High, and I said, "Coach, man, how'd you do that?" He's like, "How'd you win state?" As a young coach wanting to one day do that, and he said, mm-hmm. "Matt, we're jockeys. The best horses win." Mm-hmm. And I was like, what? He's like, I had the best horses that year. There's a lot of truth to that because if you have inferior horses, I think a great jockey can make inferior horses better, can make them a little bit faster, no doubt. But then there is an idea of, I mean, within your team, do you possess like you said, can you X and O these horses to the point where they beat Duncanville High School I
Well,
don't know.
the times that I've seen it done by teams that I would say, if we compared athlete to athlete, they would not measure up. Oftentimes, when I've seen that done, it's been by a team with great institutional knowledge of what they do, which can offset some of that athleticism, meaning we execute so well, avoiding the things that cause losing, turnovers, bad shots, all those things. And we know our programs so well. We've been doing it since the 7th grade or whatever, like that we can offset that by sort of the institutional knowledge of the way we play. And that's sort of what I try to help coaches get to. Like, what are we going to be like the night the school board approves you, the next day the superintendent hands you your keys, that job begins that day. What are we going to do here? And for some coaches, that sort of begins with, I don't know, let me see what my 5 or 6 returning lettermen look like. And that's fine. That's totally fine. For others, it's like it's already in their head. And it's just a matter of putting in that infrastructure to build it.
Coach, I got one more question, and then we'll go speed round.
Speed round. All right.
What's one rule that you would like to see changed? And we'll just go in high school basketball and why.
Okay. Well, I think the easy answer would be the shot clock. You've probably got that answered hundreds of times. So I tried to go with something else, but I did want to mention that. I'm only not answering that because I want to go with something else. I'm married, and my wife was a terrific athlete. She field hockey, soccer, really, but not necessarily a basketball background, but knows the game, knows the 2-pointer's a 2-pointer, what travel, what double dribble. It's like she can watch a game and not be lost, right? Mm-hmm. But we were at a high school basketball game a couple months ago, watching a client of mine play in the regional finals or semis, one of the two. And the opponent, the team we're rooting against, because it's a personal family friends coaching one of the teams. Well, we've got a rooting interest in this game. The opponent that he's playing has the ball sort of like right there, what some coaches call coffin corner, like half court line, half court line, sideline. They're trying to trap him, and they get a successful trap, and the girl's got the ball in the corner. She's in a double team, and my wife's watching, and she's like, you're getting excited because you can sense that there's about to be a turnover. And from 55 feet away, the coach calls timeout. And, he runs over to the ref and calls timeout. And basically rescues that.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, because she's from soccer and field hockey, you don't get to call timeout. Ever. Like when the ball's in play, like never. So it was like, she's like, wait, what happened? What? Again, not being a deep basketball watcher, but like enough to know the game, but like not that rule, like she doesn't know. Like, so my long-winded answer to say I don't like that live ball timeout. You should, if the timeout a coach asked for by the coach.
Yeah. So player in that situation could,
if you have one, yeah. But like that, to me, that's like one wire left of the joystick, right? Like we're still joysticking a little bit instead of like teaching our players, hey, if you ever get in that situation, here's what I want you to do. Throw it off the leg. If they tie you up, it's okay. We've got the possession arrow. Just don't cough it up live ball. So do this or whatever. Like, I can rescue you. Which prolongs the dependence of your team on you. And what I try to tell coaches all the time is your job as a coach, as a parent, as a coach, is to make yourself increasingly unnecessary. But we've got rules that keep you necessary. How that is harmful to coaches is now there are things I can do for you. And the worst thing you can do for a human being is something that you can do for them. The worst thing you can do for someone is to do something for them that they're perfectly capable of doing themselves. And that is why I don't like that rule.
You're right on the money. when I bail out my players, I don't think I thought about that. The message
I've done it.
that's
I've
really,
called that timeout.
oh
I'm
yeah,
not saying,
I've done it. But the message that's really sending is, hey, you're not good enough. I got this. I took care of you there. Look what you made me do. You know, everything that happens on the floor is a direct reflection of us and how we've taught, how we've prepared. They're not going to be perfect, but they have to know and have intentions of doing the right things.
Yeah.
And when they put themselves in a spot where they cross over that coffin corner and they pick it up, and we don't have three nearby receivers willing and ready to get the ball, and we're not powerful, and we get, we all get pregnant with the ball and bend over this way, and I bail you out, and I puff up my chest like, I got him. I saved you. No worries. I'm here, Daddy.
Yeah.
Like it is. You're right. Like it's such a, and I am against that. Like I don't want to coach that way. I think our offense and defensive philosophies empower those players, but that is a way that I am still holding on to control, and I would like to see it gone. And I've never thought about it before.
Yeah, I would say too, not to take it back to the answer I didn't give you because I'm sure everyone else did, but like I think it's an example like a 24-second shot clock. I always tell people it would make coaches better. And they're like, how? How would it make coaches better? Well, now I've got to teach something that I wasn't having to before. So that's good. That's a good thing. So like, for example, if with a 24-second shot clock, or with sand shot clock, we have in a lot of states, no shot clock, without a shot clock, or a super long one, like 30 or 45 or something like that. We can run an offense over and over and side to side, waiting for a defensive mistake.
Yep.
Just run one more reversal, one more flex cut. About the third or fourth one, someone will run across the baseline wide open, we'll get a layup. But the first three were ineffective, right? Like they switched it or they hedged it or whatever. Like, but with 24 seconds, we can't just run another ball screen. We can't just run another side. We can't just set another down screen. We get about 3 opportunities. So now it forces you to teach how to read that screen and how to make those passes. Like okay, we set a ball screen. We're only going to get to sit 1 or 2 in 24 seconds. So now they can't be ineffective. So I've got to teach you, hey, you saw a trap. We need a short roll and hit that guy. Or hey, so now the teaching has to go up because the action has to work. I can't just do it again. Hey, do it again. Hey, do it again until ad infinitum, until someone messes up, right? I have to teach you. I think that's one reason why you see some of the young Europeans coming over here. They play right away because they've been taught, because they have the time constraint. We can't run Euro ball screen continuity for 17 sides until someone goofs up, right? Like the second we set a ball screen, that's a scoring action.
Yes.
That's a scoring action. We're either going to reject it. If we accept it, how are we getting played? If they're icing it, we're going to snake it, whatever. Like that's all being taught. Whereas here, I think I'll just run another, do it again until somebody just goofs up or whatever. Like,
and then a minute and a half later, a guy falls down, they get a layup, and everybody claps and cheers as if that's great basketball. And that's how it should be played.
Yeah. So to tie it back to the live ball timeout rule is, hey, how about now I can't rescue you. So I've got to teach you, hey, it's a 1-2-2 half court trap. Avoid the disadvantage spot right here. Like avoid that. Like,
that's my fault if you went there, because either I haven't told you or I haven't.
Where are the traps coming from? Like, don't go there. Like, like the doctor, you say, hey, it hurts my ribs when I lay on this side. Well, lay on the other side, right? Like, don't do that. Like, sometimes I get asked, like, well, coach, what do you do when they're just trapping the hell out of your ball screens? And I'm like, oh, don't run them. Like, I mean, like, don't run them. I don't know.
Stay away. Keep two people away from each other.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballogy. Manage and measure your players' skill development and increase accountability year-round utilizing the Ballogy app. Boost inter-squad competition with drills backed by the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, including a 40-shot Ballology skills assessment. Please visit ballology.com/teams for information on how you can provide this resource for your team. Coach, the speed round. Quick questions.
Speed round.
A lot of people know you, have listened to you, and read your stuff, but now we're really going to know who you are.
Okay.
All right. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Strawberry.
Greatest shooter of all time?
Steph Curry.
Best basketball movie of all time?
Hoosiers.
Texting or talking?
Texting.
Favorite holiday?
4th of July.
That's the coach's holiday. That's the a lot of coaches say 4th of July because Thanksgiving in December, even though obviously Christmas and Easter, that has more meaning, but most of the time we're right in the middle of it during those. So
yeah, I feel like sometimes with there's pressure around those other holidays, like giving the perfect gift at Christmas or like the 4th of July is just a fun time. Just everybody's
get you a sparkler.
There's no pressure. There's no like, oh, did I forget to get a gift for someone? Yeah, it's just like everyone's having a good time.
I like that. This is a big one for you. Up 3 on defense, 7 seconds left. Do you foul or no foul?
Foul.
No hesitation there.
No.
Yep. What book would you give someone?
Essentialism by Greg McCowan.
Okay. Can you give me a little bit about it? I've never. Yeah.
It's a book basically explaining sort of like how to focus on the tagline is less but better. So like how he's a business from the business side of things, but very applicable to coaching. The tagline being less but better is like how to sort of like do fewer things and do them well and be okay with that.
Do you read quite a bit?
Yes, sir.
How do you, what's your, or maybe it's just, you just got a brain like this, but how do you keep all of those nuggets from books? Because what I feel sometimes is I try to read through it and I do highlighted things, but how much of it am I really holding on to the comprehension piece, I guess?
Yeah.
Any tricks?
That's a great question. I would say my memory's still pretty good. I do have a good memory, but I would say the best thing that I've learned is when I read something is talk about it with someone else. Like, hey, like almost like they say, like, if you really want to learn something, teach it. Like that. Like if I read a book that I really like, I just immediately start talking about it to the coaches I work with or to my family or my wife or friends or something, like just to sort of like get my hands dirty with the lessons, and then they sort of become habits.
That's a good nugget.
Yeah.
In basketball, who's the GOAT?
Michael Jordan.
Your favorite place to travel?
Park City, Utah.
Huh. Last one. It's funny. One of my players had a T-shirt on of that place today. Yeah.
Okay.
Random. Last one, probably most important. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
1.
Always
Black.
1 black. Let's
1
go.
black. First thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it the ritual behind it, like the smell, just the kind of the action, or is it a little bit of the caffeine too?
I don't really feel a noticeable like perk up from the caffeine.
Right.
I'm sure it's there, but like it's more just like I just like the habit or custom of it. But I like it black. I don't want to soften the blow, no cream, none of that. I just like it straight up John Wayne style. Let's go.
Just like your defense, coach. Just hard pressure. Let's
go. But better. Less but better.
Just
That's like
right.
Yeah.
Hey, coach, this was awesome. Like I've just been, it's been so much fun over the years, just getting to learn from you from afar, to have this time with you, man. Incredible. Really appreciate it.
No, you're a great interviewer. And I know your story, Matt. I know your history from Baylor and all of that. So, wow, just what an inspiration, you are to coaches, and keep doing what you're doing, man. I love it.
Wow.
And keep coaching, the way you coach unapologetically. I like that too. So keep it up, man.
I appreciate that. If anybody doesn't know and wants to learn more about Radius Athletics, what's a great way for them to do that?
I'd say follow me on Twitter at Radius Athletics. That's kind of my platform. I don't really do every TikTok and Instagram and all that. I'm mainly there.
Yeah.
And then go to radiusathletics.com. I'm sort of right now in the middle of sort of like a restructuring of content to where kind of, so again, as I said earlier, sort of begging the patience of coaches, like there's really not much there now, but I'm working behind the scenes to bolster that. But that'd be where I'd send you.
Okay. Man, Coach, thank you for all that you do for the game and for coaches and giving up your time today.
Yeah, anytime, man. Enjoyed it.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.